and welcome to the Doofcast, the official variety podcast of doofmedia.com. My name is Scott Daly, and I'm joined this week once again by my co-host, Matt Freeman. Matt, how's it going?
Oh, it's going spooky and scary over here.
Spooky and scary.
Yeah.
That's right, because it's our Halloween episode.
Yeah.
You know what I realized, Matt?
What?
We did a Halloween episode the first year, and then we never did it again.
That's very strange because there's plenty of stuff that we could do for a Halloween episode.
Yeah, so I thought, let's bring it back. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to bring it back. And we are joined this week by a couple guests to talk about some of our favorite spooky, scary things in the world of entertainment. First up, Michael Grubb is back. Welcome back to the show, Michael.
Hello. I love scary things.
I know you do. And you love clapping during intros.
Well, it's to help you synchronize the audio, Scott.
Well, it's going to be a disaster now because it's in the wrong place.
There you go. Thank you.
There you go. That'll help.
Thank you so much. Also returning to the podcast is Sesh Evans. Sesh, welcome back.
Hi, I'm super glad to be back and very, very excited to talk about some spooky things since I'm a horror goon.
Yeah, that's why we thought this would be a perfect episode for you to come back for. This is going to be kind of a casual, like, sitting around a campfire type of episode where we're just going to be talking about those scary things that we love.
Trying to scare each other.
Yeah, well, maybe not. I don't know. I don't know if I'm good at telling scary stories.
No, you laugh too much.
That's my problem with it.
No, it's a compliment. It's just, telling scary stories isn't really your forte.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is it your forte, Michael?
Not really. I'm too lovable.
I don't know about all that. But let's go into it. Let's start with you, Michael.
Okay.
Mr. Lovable.
Okay.
What spooky, scary thing did you want to talk about this week?
I wanted to talk about the Muppet Christmas Carol.
Okay. Step one.
Yeah.
Explain to me how this works with the prompt.
Well, the prompt was, I believe, ghost movies?
No.
Horror movies. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Same thing. But the Muppet Christmas Carol is quite a creepy tale. It's about a man by the name of Ebenezer Scrooge, who he's a bitter, selfish man, really. And he gets visited by three ghosts. The ghost of Christmas past, the ghost of Christmas present, and of course the ghost of Christmas future, which is basically Death himself, who doesn't even speak. It's really quite a terrifying film.
There is at least some scary bit in all of the Christmas. What's it called? A Christmas Story. Whatever that
Carol.
movie.
Christmas Carol.
Christmas Carol, and all of the adaptations.
It's a great little piece of writing by Charlie Dickens.
I remember the one with Jim Carrey, where Jim Carrey plays every role. There's the part where he falls down into the grave and then basically falls into hell. That was pretty
right. It's always the death bit's always real creepy, and I always think the past one is creepy too. It's like this weird child ghost.
Mm-hmm.
But do you remember who plays Ebenezer Scrooge in the Muppet Christmas Carol?
It's that guy. Yeah,
Michael Caine.
Michael Caine.
It's Michael Caine.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. This is one of those ones where some people are human and some people are Muppet, and just nobody comments on the weirdness of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's how all of the Muppet movies are. That's why they kind of I'd say artistic.
Yeah, it's a kind of magical realism.
Yeah.
Much like South Park.
Yeah, they're saying a lot by not saying anything about it, really.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, all joking aside, I agree with you that the Ghost of Christmas Future always creeped me out. I don't know if it, in this movie in particular, creeped me out, but I think that it's the Disney version that has a really creepy Ghost of Christmas yet to come. Mm-hmm. And we used to watch different movies of this Christmas movie that we're talking about during Halloween. When I was a kid, we used to watch a bunch of different versions, and in every version, the future was always really creepy. Mm-hmm. I don't remember the Ghost of Christmas Past being creepy.
And this one, it was it's not any of the Muppets. It's like a weird child ghost who is really not is kind of talks distantly in an uncaring manner.
Interesting.
Yeah. And old Jacob Marley.
Mm-hmm.
He was as dead as a doornail.
That is a doornail.
Who played Jacob Marley?
It was one of the two old people who yell at each other.
Oh, that's perfect. So they were both kind of the Marleys?
Yeah, so because remember they sang the song Marley and Marley. We're Marley and Marley, woo!
So this
Yeah,
might
that is terrifying.
be the
It was
funniest version.
It was something like that. It is definitely the best version. That's why I chose it. Yeah, I'm familiar with the Disney version as well, with Scrooge McDuck.
I was
Yes.
going to say, that was actually my first intro to this story.
That one was a mere, that was like a 20 or 30 minute cartoon, though. While this one was a full length feature film.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a whole subplot with Gonzo and the rats, right, in this movie?
Isn't there always?
Gonzo was the narrator. So
Oh,
I don't know if that's so much a subplot. Like Rizzo the rat was the co-narrator, and they were kind
Gonzo's
of like
basically being Charles Dickens, right?
yeah, basically, yeah.
Huh.
It's really quite a good film, you know. I'm
Yeah.
getting a lot of crap for this, but
No,
I'm not giving you
it's a
any
good story.
credit.
It is.
I think it's a wonderful story.
It's one of those stories where you're like, man, I wish I could think of a story that good and original. You know, it just
Yeah.
it hits you right where it hurts.
This was, I mean, there was a stretch here where they were really pumping out really good Muppet movies.
yeah, Treasure Island was another great one.
Yeah, I love Muppet Treasure Island. I've seen Muppet Treasure Island way more than this one, so I can't speak of this one with any kind of intelligence other than, is it really a horror movie, Michael?
Yes, I believe technically it is.
Well, I see. I'm just looking at IMDb here, and it says comedy drama family.
Yeah, that's just
Not
what.
seeing any.
See, I thought the prompt was just scary things, and if Michael was legitimately frightened by this puppet movie, then it's a valid entry.
Thank
By
you.
this puppet movie. Michael, were you legitimately frightened by this puppet movie?
You know, I don't remember. This came out in
Fear is a
1992.
It did. You were
And
7.
I don't think I was that scared by it, but I did find it like unnerving. There were parts of it that I found a bit disturbing.
Have you read the story?
I have.
The Dickens story?
Yeah, I have read it. It's actually, I don't like Dickens in general because he's so goddamn wordy. But this is one of his shorter ones, and the good prose in it is really, really dense. So and it's written as like a carol, so it's written in like stanzas instead of chapters. No, they aren't called
Right.
stanzas, something like that. But something music related is what he calls the chapters. But yeah, it's actually quite good.
Yeah, I completely agree. I love this book. I like Dickens a lot, but I think that's a very valid complaint that he's a wordy writer.
He's not very. I appreciate like denseness in prose, and he takes a long time to get places generally, but not in this one. In this one, like Marley comes quite quickly.
Yeah. Well, have either of you guys seen this movie? And if you have you seen it recently?
Definitely not recently.
I mean, not in the
been a
last. Yeah, sorry. Maybe last Christmas.
Yeah, at Christmas time, Michael. At Christmas time.
Yeah, but really, it spans the whole holiday season.
Okay.
You know, and it's got the bit where they have the dinner together, which is very Thanksgiving-esque. So I would say this movie
it's literally Christmas.
this movie
dinner.
is kind of open season starting on Halloween, I would say. And then it really doesn't close season until after New Year's, or maybe a week after New Year's when you throw out the Christmas tree.
Its entire
Gotcha.
the seasons. It covers just all of them.
All of the seasons
All
for
of
the
the
most
season.
part. You know, I would consider this even a birthday movie. When we're so inclined, one could watch it on a birthday.
Yeah, I mean, Christmas
Could
is
you,
someone's
uh,
birthday.
Yeah.
Could you elaborate on the birthday?
Well, you know, it's really about the self-centeredness of Ebenezer Scrooge, and really on our birthday we can all be reminded that the world is bigger than us. Scott?
Whoa! Did you make this about me?
I just thought it'd be more impactful if I
All
put
right,
a
so
name at the
that's
end of that one.
You might have actually came too prepared for this.
Yeah. So that's we're throwing the spooky dust into the fire to make the fire light up, and that's Michael's scary story, the Muppet Christmas Carol.
We're Marley and Marley. Woo.
All right, Sesh, what spooky scary thing did you bring to the table? To the fire.
So hard for me to pick one, and now I don't know if I want to go more tame or if I want to go like this is actually really, really scary. Should I go really, really scary?
Look, here's the thing: is that we started with the Muppet Christmas Carol, so
you can only get
really...
scarier.
Oh gosh, I mean, what if I say both of mine and we decide what to talk about?
I mean, we could just do both of them.
We'll go around again.
Sure.
I got more things.
Oh.
Yeah, no, I think we're just gonna go around the circle a few times. So if you have multiple things,
I got so many.
We'll circle back around to you.
You know, I'll go darker for this one, and because there's a good chance you guys probably haven't seen it, and if you have, I'd be thrilled. So, the third installment of the Exorcist movies is terrifying. It is so good, and nobody saw it. It was completely under the radar. I never had met anyone independent of me showing them that had seen this movie, because the second one, The Heretic, was so bad nobody even bothered with the third, but the third is great.
That's amazing. Yeah, I've actually never seen the third one. We did Exorcist 2 for an episode of our old podcast Phantom Zone, which is when we were talking about the worst movies ever. So I did have to watch that, and it is awful.
It is amazing. Yeah.
So this one, you don't have to see the second one at all. It completely ignores the second one entirely. It just jumps forward years later from the first movie.
So I've not seen the first movie. Can you give me a couple sentence synopsis of the old Exorcist?
Scott, Matt?
she gets possessed.
Yeah.
And they get it out of her.
Young girl gets possessed, and a young priest and an old priest have to come exorcise the demon, and the whole idea of it is it was like really like vulgar and shocking at the time, but like you wouldn't like notice it anymore.
Is it like the Fifth Element?
No.
Nope.
Because there was an old priest and a young priest in that one too.
Interesting.
That is true.
Okay, actually, you know what? He's onto something. There was a question of faith in that movie, as well as the Fifth Element. So they are connected.
Oh.
Yeah.
I love it when things are connected.
Yeah, it did a very, very good job of making it like a very grounded, realistic, spooky possession that is just being ignored the whole time. So it's not a lot of people saying like, oh, she's possessed the whole movie.
Yeah. It's
them being like, what the hell is wrong with her? And like the last resort is like, okay, it might be a possession. It's like, that's actually insane. Like even the young priest that they bring in is like, his faith is being questioned. And he's like, okay, yeah, this is just kind of weird. So we'll get an old guy in who's supposedly done an exorcism before. And it's super creepy. Like it does actually do some stuff that are like to this day really creepy. The first one for me, I never saw the way through until it was re-released in theaters with the director's cut, which is just a tad more intense. And
yeah, that definitely.
Yeah, and I mean, I saw it like alone in the theaters, middle of the day, and I was super spooked afterwards. And I had seen the ending like 40 times, and none of the rest of the movie. It was a really good movie. So
what is The Exorcist 3 about? Yeah,
the third one. So in the first movie, there's multiple like religious figures. They come in. There's different fathers that talk with the priests that we see in it, and there's also detectives, because in the movie there's a point where somebody dies in a very, very suspicious way. So the investigators get involved too. And at the end of the movie, we kind of see that one of the investigators, one of the detectives, and like one of the priests hit it off. Like they kind of start chatting. They're both they came from different areas, and they both only got some details from this, and they became friends after that. Jump forward, I think it was like 30 years later it's supposed to take place, 20, 30 years later, and they're buddies. and it's about the detective. Now he's the main character, and he's played by George C. Scott, and he is fantastic.
Really?
Yes, he's so good in this movie. And there's some strange murders that start happening from an old case with some weird things that were never disclosed to the press. Like only the killer that was caught and was executed would have known. So he starts investigating all of that, and then all these other weird things start happening back from that Reagan girl from the first movie, and that weird possession or whatever that weird thing was going on in that house. So he's also like a non-religious type. And so it goes that route, and all of the answers to these questions are all just so spooky and so scary, and it basically just brings him to like this insane asylum where there's like nothing but like poor elderly people with dementia and like very few like criminals that are just like comatose or like they just don't talk at all. And he just finds one guy who looks is the same actor, Jason Miller. I forget his last name, who was the young priest in the first movie. But he looks exactly the same. So
cool.
It goes off, and it just goes off in like different cool, creepy directions with being possessed, how some people get possessed, and just goes off into like those little areas, and it's just this poor detective being like toyed with, and it's so creepy. There's so many good shots in this movie and just creepy things though, like you look up, which is always super creepy to me.
That's cool.
The acting is really fantastic in it, and I know he's a super cheesy actor, but he's great. He's so fantastic, and he's usually so over the top, but he's fantastic in this. Brad Dourif is in it. And you might know him from Chucky.
Yep.
He's the voice of Chucky.
I don't know if I've ever seen him like in a thing where he wasn't Chucky. I guess he played Wormtongue, didn't he? In Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, he was that. He's done bit parts in like Star Trek. I think a couple of the Star Treks actually. He's always like this psycho murderer guy, and he's like really intense and serious and scary in this without like being a cheesy little doll. He's actually like weird and intimidating in this, and awesome. I checked it out. Like the movie came out in 1990, just again like totally under the radar. I'd never heard anyone talk about it except my parents, who are obsessed with horror as well. I saw it probably in like 2002 or something. Like I was decently young. I can't remember exactly, but as early teenager, like the oldest that I saw this one. And it's super creepy. It's just like other new ways that a demon can mess with you on purpose, and it just all feels so like how it would happen. It's just totally in the same tone of the first movie. It's just it feels like such a true sequel to the first movie, where it's like
kind of fixes what they did ridiculously with the second one.
Exactly. It totally fixes it. It just undoes it. Like they just hit the reset button and did something new and better.
And Matt and Michael, you guys haven't seen this either, I'm guessing.
No. I haven't seen any of the Exorcists.
Part of why end it.
I'm looking this up on IMDb, and it looks like this was directed by William Peter Blatty, who's the guy who wrote the original novel, who wrote The Exorcist. Yeah,
which is
kind of crazy.
Amazing, because it shouldn't be so well directed. Honestly, like we're just like a writer doing that, but like he had it, man. Like it worked out so well. Like there's some of my favorite like scary shots ever, like in this movie.
Man, I'm adding this to my list then.
Oh, yes, please do.
Absolutely.
I feel a need to be an Exorcist completionist now since I bothered to watch the second one.
You did do that. I'm so sorry.
Don't leave off with that one. Put a better taste in your mouth.
I'm now like refreshing my memory about all the crazy shit that happens in Exorcist 2, and it's ridiculous.
Yeah, I can't really remember what happens. Like I would like to write down with a piece of paper like what I think happened, and then compare that with what actually happened, because I think that would be funny.
Please do.
It involves going to Africa and finding locusts.
Yeah, it involves following a locust in the worst shot ever through like a city and people running away from the locust.
Oh man.
And
then
James Earl Jones like changing into something. I don't know.
All right.
Is he the Demon Pazuzu again? Is he?
Yeah.
Is he? He's the voice of Pazuzu. Oh God.
Pazuzu.
I think he is Pazuzu.
Zuzu.
Scariest.
Or no, who's... Jesus. I like want to know what this conversation sounds like to someone who hasn't read the movie or hasn't seen the movie, because it's fucking ridiculous.
People should see it's such a classic, and yeah, and then go watch the third one. Don't watch anything else ever with the Exorcist ward in the title.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. All right, Matt, what is your entry to the Spooky Club Society?
I suppose my first entry would be Dead Space, the game.
I love Dead Space.
I know you do. I think I'm only going to talk about the first game because that's the only one I played, and my understanding is that they're all similar, but
yeah,
it does a lot of things right.
Yeah, go ahead and talk about it. We can talk about the sequels.
Yeah, so basically, it's a shooter. It's like an over-the-shoulder shooter, which for some reason adds to the horror for me. And you're like the one survivor on a spaceship full of dead people, and then like monsters, and then the dead bodies sometimes turn into monsters, and they're really a nice variety of genuinely scary monsters, like babies with tentacles and like corpses with like spike arms that come out of them. And the combat conceit is that you mainly get weapons that are cutting weapons, and you can't just shoot these monsters in the head. You have to basically like cut their limbs off surgically one by one with like your cutting laser or what have you. And it adds a whole new dimension to the combat. It makes it, I think, more fun and engaging, but also just kind of more like frantic and like as you're like running around and just like trying to like not just kill the guy who's after you, but like shoot off one of his legs just so you can deal with the other ones who are coming down the other end of the hallway, and then you're gonna have to turn back around and finish him off. And like
then you have the terrifying visage of like a body with only one limb left pulling itself toward you.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. They have so many limbs too, and it's such a good twist instead of, because they're like pseudo space alien zombies, but you don't shoot them in the head. Like that's just such a natural inclination. It's like, oh, you shoot a zombie in the head.
Yeah.
You get the limbs. There's so many limbs.
My favorite part of that the Dead Space is how like cinematic it was in terms of like how the scenes were prepared, because they'd have all of these things. Like you'd go into a room and there'd be like nothing in it on purpose, and then they'd have like one loud noise trigger, when you go somewhere, and it's like the same noise that a creature like popped out before. And then the best part that I remember is like there's the like safe rooms where you can save the game. And one of the times when you save the game, when you exit the save screen, there's like a guy who jumps out and attacks you right away. It's like there's nowhere safe.
That's so great. It felt amazing. Like there was like rooms and halls where you can kind of see through the vents, which is of course where all the monsters are, and they pop out. There's one time you see it scurry across, and then it took 3 rooms before I ran into any enemies. It was like the most anxious 3 rooms I had to walk through. Like the game was brilliant. I loved it so much.
I'm so glad you brought this up, Matt, because I adore this game too. I think this is like one of the best designed survival horror games I've ever played, like rivaling the Resident Evil games. And I agree with everything you guys have said. What I want to talk about is the sound design, because I think it's incredible. Like sound is so important in horror, right? Like it's so pivotal to scaring you. And I love what this game does with the 0G out in space sequences, where like all the sound gets muffled because you're out in space and sound doesn't travel as much, and like how they can use that to like the monster sneaking up on you and you literally can't hear it because you're in space, you're in a vacuum. And I just like the details like that are so great and add to it so well.
Yeah, I agree. I was going to say something about the zero grav parts where you're like jumping between areas, and that's not necessarily scary, but it is great. Just like the part of the game that stuck with me the most and just like immediately hooked me was the beginning, which I remember very vividly, where you're in an elevator, I believe, and you basically like as the elevator's closing, you're like seeing somebody get horribly murdered, and then the thing like tries to smash through the elevator door to get to you, and the game really conveys this sense that you're in this enclosed space and there's nothing you can do because you haven't picked up any weapons yet. So you're just like watching it inexorably rip open the door to get to you. And then like, I think it backs off, and then, but it's like the perfect setup of,
yeah, well,
I don't know.
And the other great thing about it is that you enter with a team of Space Marines.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so alien plot.
Well, but the thing that I love about it is, like the original Alien, you're not a soldier. You're like an engineer.
Yeah.
You fix shit. And like, I love that all the weapons are basically just like repurposed, like engineering tools.
Soldering guns and
Right.
little lasers, tied tech soldering guns of the future.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that it does is that like, I think a lot of games are afraid to do this. Like, you never feel like a badass in this game. Like, you never feel like you're in control. Like, even at the end of the game, when you've got an arsenal of weapons and you're stronger and more powerful and you've been upgrading yourself, like, you still feel like you're half a second from death. And that's something like games don't like, because games like to present this image of you like growing in power and being more powerful, and eventually you're overtaking the situation. And I don't think this game ever really made me feel like I was in control of anything.
Yeah, there's not a single moment in this game where you feel safe. Like, not one. Like, you always feel like they could come out of the walls constantly.
Yeah, and then on top of the monsters, you have like the hallucination of your dead girlfriend or whatever who's showing up just to creep you out, basically.
Right. I mean, it's really good storytelling. I mean, outside of the good direction and design they do to make it scary, like I enjoyed the story in this game.
Yeah. Cool.
And then they fucked it up.
Did they? So, yeah, I don't know anything about the sequels.
Kind of.
I assumed it was just more of the same. But
I like the second one, you know, like they gave the main character a voice and they kept it wasn't done as scary though. Like they had more areas where you felt safe. They had more areas that were just predictable horror. Like there wasn't at all a moment where I saw something crawling in the vent and then I turned the corner and it wasn't there. Like there wasn't any moments like that in the second game, which was really disappointing. It was fun though. The character talked, which was fun. There's other characters, so there was a personality to it, but it just wasn't as scary.
Yeah, I mean, there are parts of the second game that I really enjoyed. I'm thinking of like when you go through the nursery at the space station.
Yes. Oh gosh.
So the concept of the second game is basically like the thing has gotten onto a space station and infected an entire space station. So instead of just being on one ship, you're on a whole space station and you're kind of working your way through it. And it's the kind of inevitable tale of turning it from a survival horror game into an action game that happens in the third one. The second is moving towards that direction, and then the third one, like, it's a co-op game where you craft guns and just like they wrecked it. They wrecked it.
Yeah. It was so great, like just that kind of horror game. There's only like a couple of things I'd put on that level. I'll get to those on my next turn since we are talking about video games, because that's a whole nother category.
Oh, we're talking about everything. Yeah. Yeah, it's one of those. I mean, this was Electronic Arts. I think it probably didn't sell enough, so they needed to. We need to put more action in it, and it'll sell more. And then it just like never made the ridiculous expectations they put for it, and so they just said, "Nope, we're done."
Yeah,
it's fine.
It's a sad end to a wonderful game.
Yeah, I mean, I'm as long as the first game got to exist, I'm fine.
Yeah.
I believe the first game was programmed by Visceral, right? It was Visceral Games that made it, and they're one of the studios that they made a good game. EA published it, and then they bought the studio and then destroyed it.
Well, Dead Space didn't need a sequel. Like, it was just a well-crafted horror game. There was nothing to like continue with it. The only reason to make a sequel was to make money off of the title being popular from the first game.
Yeah, but I mean, just because, I mean, that doesn't mean that a good thing can't exist out of it. Like,
yeah, but you need like a new vision for it. You can't just be like, oh, let's do that thing again. You know, it's not like there's some like the Mass Effects and the Dragon Ages and that kind of thing. Like, it's pretty easy to imagine like doing more of that thing and it's still working.
Mm-hmm.
But like a Dead Space is more of like a very carefully like crafted horror thing. And like once you've done it, it's like you can't really do it again and it'd still be interesting.
It's very moment to moment. Like every moment in that first game was like crafted to be just so scary.
Yeah, it could be like if Alien 2 was like Ripley being on another spaceship by herself.
Yeah.
All right, so that is Dead Space. Rest in peace, Dead Space. You were great. All right, my thing that I'm submitting to you guys is something that I know, Michael and Matt, you haven't seen. I don't know if you've gotten around to watching it, Sesh, though. I want to talk about Netflix's new series, The Haunting of Hill House.
Oh, not yet.
I have played the board game, The House on Haunted Hill, I think.
It's different. It's different.
I've seen like 10 movies with that title.
Yeah, so The Haunting of Hill House is a 10-episode Netflix series based on the 1959 book written by Shirley Jackson that was later adapted into at least 2 movies. There was one back in the 60s, and then there was one, I think, in the early 2000s or the 90s that had Catherine Zeta-Jones and Owen Wilson in it.
Yep.
And it was real bad. It was real bad.
Classic duo.
Yeah. So I did not have a lot of expectation going into this thing. I think one of the things that is really tough to do in horror is TV, because it's like really hard to get like 10 hours of like scares and good storytelling around those scares without it just kind of feeling stale. But this show is created by Mike Flanagan, who is a really, really talented horror maker. He's done Gerald's Game, which is a Stephen King adaptation that came out last year. He's done a movie called Hush. He's done a movie called Oculus. He did the sequel to Ouija that was surprisingly good. No one thought that a sequel to a movie about a Ouija board would be good, but he did it. And so I was like, once I learned that it was him doing it, I was like kind of really excited to watch this, and I like devoured it the week it came out. It is like fantastic. Like, it's probably one of the best horror series I've ever watched. It is consistently scary throughout. I watched this like by myself alone at night because my wife does not like horror stuff, so I cannot watch it with her, so I have to wait till she goes to bed to turn on the scary stuff. So I was always like by myself alone freaking out. So the scares are well constructed. The house has like this like it's wonderful set design. It's this really creepy house. Like, I think Flanagan like puts ghosts on the edges of frames sometimes. Like, just throughout the house, there'll just be ghosts in the background during normal scenes, and you might miss them, you might not. It's just, they're just there constantly. But the thing that I think is really good about this show is this is basically a family drama. It is about this family that bought this house in order to flip it. They lived there for 2 months. Their experience in the house ended with the mother dying and everyone moving out, and then it kind of flash forwards to years later when everyone is just a wreck. And basically, this is a show about inherited trauma. It's about how a terrible thing that can happen to you warps and changes your whole life and kind of haunts you throughout your entire life. I've heard it described as This Is Us with ghosts, and I think that's very accurate because that's kind of what it is. And I think it's like, I mean, we have a whole podcast where we talk about a book that is basically superpowers are trauma, and this is ghosts are trauma. And I think it's fantastic. I think it's so, like, watching this family and how this event shaped and destroyed them. Like, it does the thing which is very popular in TV these days of like cutting back and forth. Like, the show technically takes place in both the timelines. We see them in the future, and then we flash back to kind of fill out scenes of what happened in the house when they were kids, which is not my favorite thing. I don't love flashbacks, but I think it really works here because they're still ruled by all these things. It's just so wonderfully written and performed and shot. There's an episode, I think it's episode 6 or 7, that there's like a 15-minute one take shot in it with special effects. Like, I don't even know how they did it. It's so good, guys.
Oh,
so
I love one shots. I'm in.
Cool. Yeah. Well, I haven't seen it, but I mean, it sounds good. Does it have any wins in it? Do the characters get to win every once in a while?
Yes.
Okay.
Without spoiling the ending, yeah. It is not a nihilistic show. Like, yes, it is sad and scary, and a lot of the characters go through a lot of things. But yeah.
Cool. That's my new requirement for watching things.
It's also super scary. Like, I don't want to undersell the scares by like focusing on the family drama. Like the ghost designs in this are good. Some of the set pieces with some of the ghosts. There's this ghost with a bowler cap on that like hovers above the air, and it's so creepy. I'm just thinking about it right now and getting scared. It's also like, I want to watch the show again. I really want to dive into like what all it's doing with how it's showing the trauma and how the metaphor works and plays out, and with each of these kids. Like, it's like, this is an all-time great show.
Cool.
I'm watching that right away.
Yes, please do. Michael, you should too. I think you'd like it, Michael.
Sounds scary.
It is scary. It's very scary, but like in a good way.
Oh, well, maybe I'll try it.
All right. So that is The Haunting of Hill House. Check that out. Don't do the Catherine Zeta-Jones, Owen Wilson one. Not that one.
But you have been warned.
I've actually never read the novel, and I bought it this weekend and put it on my enormous to be read list. But I'm really interested in reading the novel now. I mean, I hear that the television show is very different from the novel. They took the idea and went a new place with it. But I also hear the novel is like one of the all-time best horror books. So
why do I know who Shirley Jackson is? Did she do other things?
Oh yeah, she wrote a bunch of stuff. The Lottery.
Oh, that's why. Yeah, The Lottery.
Yeah,
that's a good one. It's a good little short story.
Yeah, it's funny, she kind of got typecast as a horror writer after this book, but she's not really a horror writer.
That short story is kind of horror.
Kind of.
Once you realize what The Lottery is.
Yeah. All right, so we're back around the circle again. Michael, did you have something else you wanted to talk about?
I've got so many great horror films.
Why did you say that like you're putting quotes around horror?
I don't know. This one I think fits.
Okay.
Shaun of the Dead.
That's good.
Ooh,
That's a zombie film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Zombie comedy.
I quite like that one.
Talk to me about Shaun of the Dead. What do you like so much about Shaun of the Dead?
Yeah, well, I like it's about this guy who kind of like has no direction in life, and life's boring and everything, and he just hangs out and plays video games with his friend, and then he wakes up one day and there's a zombie apocalypse going on, and he has to survive, and he kind of gets his life together, and then the ending is really tragic. But I think the things that work is that it's a zombie film that has like heart to it, and I think it resonated a lot with like adolescent Michael, who was like, wow, the world is boring, and wouldn't it be cool if there was a zombie apocalypse? And then there was.
Okay, I want to circle back to the ending being tragic.
Yeah,
I thought the ending of that movie was tragic.
So and remember, the ending is his best friend, who he plays video games with, gets bitten, and then stalls so that the guy and his girlfriend can escape, and then in the end you find out that he's turned into a zombie, and the main character is like keeping him in a shed so he can continue to play video games with him, kind of as a zombie. It's a really sad picture.
I think it's a great dark humor movie.
Yeah,
because there's so much of everyone being zombies when they were alive, and he's kind of one of those people.
Right, exactly.
So it's kind of like hey, let's keep you around. You're still happy.
Yeah, but I mean, his relationship is back together. He seems to have righted his life, and but he still makes time for his friend who was like completely content being a zombie through life.
Yep.
Yeah, but he was like, he's fine with it. He was a zombie before he became a zombie.
But it's still sad though,
and also everyone else dies tragically too. So it's not like that's
who cares about those people?
You people are cold-hearted. Let me tell you, this was a sad film.
But it's a metaphor for someone like getting out of their rut in their life and like living their life, and I think that's Shaun achieves that by the end
At
of
the
the
expense of his best friend.
movie.
Was
well,
the
his
cost
best friend was
too
holding him
high?
back, so he had to lock him in the shed.
Oh wow.
No,
That's dark.
yeah.
Yeah.
But just for the record, if I ever become a zombie, I would prefer that you keep me chained up somewhere in case they ever discover a cure.
Yeah,
you go.
same. He's playing the video game back, and
Yeah.
Well, sort of.
Barely.
And Matt,
I think
I
he's
mean,
just
and
mashing
Matt-
the
probably
keys
not
actually.
as good.
yeah.
He's matching keys though. Like that says something.
It's like, imagine if instead of turning into a zombie, he just became retarded, and then he kept him in the shed and like pretended to play video games with him.
well, that's not really the
That'd
same
still
thing
be
at all.
sad.
But not
That'd
the
be
same
sad.
thing, but same point stands. Please keep me alive.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
or
like Matt,
zombie alive.
when you guys turn into zombies, I will store you in my shed and I will come play video games with you, and I feel like that's an honor.
Yeah.
I'm
It's
not
just
gonna turn
like-
into a zombie. I've got my zombie apocalypse plan all set
Oh,
up.
do you?
Uh-huh.
It's funny. I just read a book, the sequel to John Dies at the End. Matt,
Uh-huh.
this book is full of spiders. There's basically a zombie-ish outbreak in the story, and there's a bunch of like zombie nuts that have been planning for the zombie apocalypse for years, and they all die. They all die horribly because they actually weren't ready at all. So Michael, it's not looking good, buddy.
My house is on stilts.
That's pretty good. Okay, that's pretty good.
It's
It's
pretty
a good start.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you definitely.
Is your roof a garden?
No.
How you gonna grow food, man? You got to get that garden roof going.
I've got cupboards and cupboards of ramen noodles up in here.
Well, that's fair.
Those things will never go bad.
But you need a pump shotgun and like hundreds of thousands of shells, basically. Like,
No.
that's-
If you've ever played any zombie video game, you don't want to use the ammo weapons. You want to use the infinite, like, katana weapon.
Oh.
Yeah,
Right.
that was the zombie survival guide.
Well, do you have a katana? Or an axe?
Well, admittedly, no.
Because I at least have a big axe in my house. So
Yeah.
Wait, you have a big? I was just at your house. Where was this axe?
in the garage,
Why do you have a big axe?
not in the
For the
kitchen.
zombie apocalypse?
For splitting wood because it's Colorado.
Do you do that?
Sometimes.
I'm fascinated by this.
Oh, just
Pretty
like in all
cool.
those movies where there's like a guy who's like splitting wood.
You know what? A great time to have like a dramatic conversation with someone is while they're splitting wood.
Right. Yeah,
True.
definitely.
Oh yeah.
And next time you're here, I'll split some wood and then we can have a conversation in my
Is it
backyard.
really a dramatic
Podcast it?
conversation though? It's usually more of like a, I don't know, what's the normal conversation while people are splitting wood?
Well, the person who's splitting wood is trying to vent their frustration, and that's why they're splitting the wood.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
It's always an awkward conversation, at least.
Yeah, and then Captain America just rips the log in half.
Yeah.
because he's Captain
It's
America.
Yeah.
wonderful.
Or there can be like undertones of violence where you're holding a weapon in your hand, and so there's implication, but it's not overt. It's not an overt threat.
Or
So
like the camera is showing the person as if they're splitting wood, but they're actually like cutting squirrels in half.
What?
What
Yeah.
was that?
That hasn't happened, but it'd really have a different tone at that point, I think.
Oh my god.
There's
Okay,
the
so
Muppets
to get back to Shaun of the Dead,
Right. Shaun of the Dead. Great movie.
that was great. It was a great
Such a
movie.
great movie.
We did.
I love the crap out of that movie so much because zombies have been one of my favorite things for a very long time. But there is a humor to them that you start to see eventually, and so I loved that movie so much for bringing all of that out.
Yeah.
Sesh, I have
I agree.
a very important zombie question for you.
Yes.
The things in 28 Days Later, are they zombies?
They're not dead. No.
See, that's. I got in this fight. With someone we've had on the podcast before at the last film festival, who wrote her dissertation on George Romero and zombie films.
Yes.
So like, I was picking a fight with a person who knows way more about this than I do.
I know so.
But I was like, here's the thing. They're still zombies.
They're
like,
still
I know they're not
zombies.
It's
dead.
a different kind of zombie though, because zombie, comes from voodoo, which is coming from zombies.
They're archetypal
the dead.
zombies.
They're
Right.
yeah, like they're just a disease. Like it's gosh, what was that movie? Wreck or Outbreak? Quarantine/Wreck.
Traffic?
Mexican. There's the movie Wreck, which was the Mexican original film, and then they redid it with I forget her name. She was the sister in Dexter, in a movie called Quarantine, where they quarantine off like this apartment building, and it's because like people inside were getting rabies, and rabies isn't supposed to affect people that way, only animals. But it was very like the exact same thing as like 28 days later, where they're just diseased and ravenous. But they weren't dead, so they weren't zombies. Zombies, but I mean, other fun things. Like there's other creepy things that go with zombies. So
they look like zombies and they act like zombies. They're zombies.
That's where I'm at. Like Romero's zombies were a reimagining of what the zombie was.
Right.
So we can we're not like glued to this definition. If it looks like a zombie, if it walks like a zombie, if it eats people like a zombie, this is a zombie.
Yeah.
Kind of. Okay, those things also, they just kind of fought and scratched and bit, but didn't eat. Like there wasn't a hunger driving them. It was just aggression in 28 days later. So, they didn't eat people either. Yeah.
They were
infected with rage.
Yeah. But so here's a thing with zombies. To be serious with zombies, they have all this other great underlying stuff. So one, obviously, predator, prey, humans, being eaten is a scary thing that's very primal for us. And, now like our worst enemy is other people. So being eaten by people, super scary. The other thing, the other layer that makes them real zombies is the death aspect, because obviously people are scared of death, and having it in your face like that is like gross and scary, and again more primal than a lot of other like movie monsters.
So conversely, on the other end of the spectrum here, iZombie, is she a real zombie?
I haven't seen that yet. I believe so, because it's her coming back from the dead.
She comes back from the dead, but she doesn't act like a zombie. So I would say, even though she's technically called a zombie, she's spiritually not a zombie.
I mean, the name of the show is iZombie.
I think it's ironic.
Zombie.
It's ironic zombie.
Ironic zombie. She would be an alternative take on a Romero zombie.
I'm so regretting going down this road.
I love it. You know why?
Speaking of horror things, iZombie.
Yeah. And notice I'm not saying anything because I find arguments about the definitions of words to be the most pointless things in the world.
Well, to talk more about zombies.
Yeah, dude, what's your next thing, Sesh? Is it zombie related?
I was actually probably going to go zombie related with either the remake of Night of the Living Dead, or the video game that got me into single player gaming was Resident Evil 2. So
which one?
The only one that's out right now, because the next one comes out and I'm going to be playing the crap out of that for my birthday because it's a remake. But Resident Evil 2 for the PlayStation.
Cool.
So that was, I think it came out in, I want to say 97 or 98. I had played it.
Sounds right.
At Toys R Us as like a store demo. And this was right when I was getting into zombies, and I was thinking that, gosh, they're just like the scariest monster. Like, I'm not scared of werewolves. Dogs are always cute, even if they're ugly. Like, it's furry. Fur's cute, So zombies were that thing that was like, wow, this is scary. And I played this demo, and it's this, I mean, at the time, this a real cute cop guy, and then this girl who's brunette with a ponytail, which I am currently whipping back and forth because that is me. And I super related to this game at like that young, impressionable age, when it was like that spooky thing I liked. That was not long after I had first seen the remake. I actually saw the remake of Night of the Living Dead first before I saw the original. Both are so good. And so this game, like, I loved it. Like, I was playing the demo and I was obsessed for it. Like, at Christmas, I got a PlayStation just for that game. I played the crap out of it, and I loved it. I love playing as both characters, and just to this day, like, I just feel like it's one of like the most brilliant games I've ever played. You played as both Leon Kennedy and Claire Redfield, and they each have an A and a B storyline. So whoever you play as first all the way through, you save your file, then you play through as the other character, and it's a different storyline. You're playing kind of in the same location, but you're in like different rooms, and you're taking care of like other different locked doors, and you're meeting other different characters all at the same time as the other storylines going on. So it's
That's cool.
It's 4 games in one, and this was, PlayStation 1, like that era. So it was so brilliant, and it was just all these different things I love coming together. And yeah, like just playing through like a zombie game was fantastic. Like I hadn't played any like zombie games or like actual horror games at all before that. I didn't even know you can do that with a video game. And for a video game to be horror, like it's so much scarier, I think, than like reading or watching a show or watching a movie. Like having to be the one that goes forward yourself is so scary.
That's really interesting. It's making me think about just the basic fact that like that it's probably really awesome, but there's no way I'm going to go back and play a PS1 game.
Well, they're
Don't
remaking
worry about
it.
that.
But,
they're remaking it.
But they're not really. I mean, it's not going to be the same, right? And that's
No.
Like I guess. I mean, I'm not trying to make a big tangent, but I'm like, my kids are never going to play Zelda Ocarina of Time, even though I think that's a great game. They're going to play whatever the new Zelda is. So it's like you can never really go back. But I mean, it's still fun to talk about this game because of the nostalgia that it holds for you. But yeah, that's cool.
And then again, like the remake is coming out for it, and I played a little bit of it. It looks fantastic. I think it's one of those where in the areas that it didn't age well, like besides just the graphics, it's taking advantage to have more storyline, more cutscenes, more acting, more atmosphere to it. Like the police station area that I explored in the demo was like mostly dark, which there wasn't any use in that game of like a flashlight or limited visibility. And like Silent Hill was doing that then because of limited graphics, but Resident Evil wasn't. Like you could basically always see everything that was in your frame. So this one's going to be good.
Resident Evil is really interesting because, it created the genre, right? Like the first Resident Evil made survival horror. Like it didn't exist. And I think Resident Evil 2, I completely agree with you, like refined it to the point of perfection. And then kind of like Dead Space, the series like took a kind of a slow descent into something else.
Yeah.
And by the time you're in Resident Evil 5 and 6, it's basically just action games. Action zombie games. And I think 7, like I think what they're doing is I think they're realizing that like that survival horror can exist still. And they're kind of pushing closer to that because I don't know if you played Resident Evil 7, Sesh, but that game scared the shit out of me.
I did. It was super, super scary. My problem is I came off of Outlast, which I thought was much better for that moment-to-moment stuff.
Gotcha. Yeah, it definitely felt like they were aping that style.
Yeah.
But just putting a Resident Evil name on it.
Yeah, it was very, it was as different as a Resident Evil game as 4 was prior. But
right.
I think it did as much for the genre or the series as Resident Evil 4 did.
And that's the thing about 4 is I love that game. I think that's a fantastic game, but it is not survival horror anymore.
Yeah.
Like it takes the game in interesting new directions, and it's a fantastically made game, but it's a different kind of thing. And that's why I completely agree with you that 1 and 2 will always, in my heart, be like my favorite. And I'm looking forward to the remake too. I think they've kind of realized that don't make it an action game is the thing that people want, and it seems like I haven't played it. I haven't even seen that much of it, but it seems like that's where they're going.
I just hope in the remake they don't get Andrew Garfield to play Leon.
What's wrong with Andrew Garfield?
I'm just saying that Tony Maguire was better.
Yeah, I'm Team Tobey Maguire.
I get it.
Poor
Andrew Garfield. Andrew Garfield was so excited about playing Spider-Man, and then his movies were just bad.
Yeah, well, he should have done a better job.
It's not his fault.
It's kind of his fault.
It's not his fault.
We always blame the actors.
It's not Andrew Garfield's fault they wrote nerdy Peter Parker as a super popular skater kid for some reason.
Well.
Oh.
All right, that is Resident Evil 2, and that's Sesh's Matt. Do you got something else?
Yeah. I wanted to talk about Jacob's Ladder. See if anybody had seen Jacob's Ladder.
I saw that this week.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
For the first time?
Perfect.
Yeah.
Have you seen it, Michael?
Is that like All Dogs Go to Heaven?
It's a lot like All Dogs Go to Heaven, but about people and way more messed up.
And more.
I haven't seen that. No, do tell.
Yeah, so it's actually really difficult to summarize, especially if I don't want to spoil it, because what appears to be happening for much of the movie is probably not actually happening in a way where if I explain it any further, it will spoil it. But it's very surreal. It has a lot of visuals that are extremely creepy and unnerving. It has this tone to it that I've just never seen in anything else. Nothing even close to it. Like I wouldn't even say like, oh, the tone reminds me of this other thing, because it's like, no, I mean, I can't think of anything that this tone reminds me of. It's an experience, you know. There's one of those rare movies where it's just a different thing. And like, I don't know, the visual effect where like a person is standing still and their head is like a blur that you may have seen in other things, that I'm pretty sure that originated with this movie. Yeah, I don't want to go into it too much because I don't actually want to spoil it for people, but I think it's really great. And it kind of inspired a lot of other things in different ways. I don't know, you guys who've seen it, what do you think?
Yeah, I was like taken aback by the visuals of it, because everything. I think we talked about it a little bit earlier with the Haunting on House Hill, where there's like something creepy there, and it's just kind of there, and it's in like a normal scene. This is all just things are just creepy, and they're like flashes. It's like it's so easy to miss these things that are creepy, but like when you kind of register it, it's like so unnerving. Like there's just like you see like a bus go by or like a car go by, and it's like what was that? And like you're kind of registering it, but it sort of looks like something you've seen like your day to day. It's really like unsettling, and it makes you not want to blink, but also like not want to pay attention at the same time.
Yeah, definitely. And kind of the message of the movie is very powerful, I find, which has to do with death, to vaguely describe it. Scott, have you seen it?
I thought I had, but looking at this IMDb, no, I don't think I've seen this movie.
Yeah, well,
I really thought I did,
it's
but
interesting. Yeah, I mean, it's a classic. I recommend it. I know I'm being weird and not spoiling it, but like I actually think it's kind of important to get the full experience, to just kind of go into it as cold as possible.
You've given me absolutely no impression of what this movie is about.
It's very. Let's see, what is it about? What is it about? It's ostensibly about a.
Does it have any characters in it?
Oh yeah, I mean, so it's about a Vietnam combat medic who is like trying to get back into normal life.
Like Deer Hunter?
I mean, no, because most of Deer Hunter is about the actual Vietnam part. This is about he's
Rambo.
I mean, other than the fact that he's a Vietnam vet, no.
Taxi driver. Why don't you just describe it?
Well, so he's trying to get back into his. He's trying to sort of live a normal life, but he keeps seeing weird things, like creepy kind of satanic-ish things, or like
Donnie Darko.
No, way creepier than Donnie Darko. Like a million times creepier than Donnie Darko. And
like some Dead Space stuff.
Like some Dead Space stuff, and then just like nonsense things will happen, and then he'll get flashbacks to Vietnam, and there's like a mystery wound through all of it, and then like you gradually find out that like he had this whole other family who like his son died. That's not really a huge spoiler, but like you learn weirdly late in the movie that like his young son died a long time ago, and like this is also this is the thing, if I just describe it, you're like, that sounds like that just sounds like things happening, but it's really the tone that kind of makes it worth watching. It's the
sounds like a Lifetime original movie.
Well, if Lifetime original movies make you like not sleep that night, then perhaps. I don't know. I've never watched one.
Me neither.
All right. No, I think Matt, to give Matt the credit he deserves, I think he did a good job at least selling me on it. So I want to check that out. And our audience should too, now that you've done it in a way that didn't spoil them. So thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
All right, it's my turn, and I'm going to talk about a recent thing again, just because I'm going to do that. I want to talk a little bit about Halloween.
Yeah.
The new Halloween.
Oh.
Has anyone here seen the new Halloween?
I
No.
did with Shaun Dossing, apparently. He was there in the theater. We randomly bumped into him and said hi. The big
Oh, cool.
YouTuber.
So this is the 11th or 12th Halloween movie in the Halloween series. It's directed by David Gordon Green, written by Green and Danny McBride, produced by Blumhouse. Basically, so for those of you who have never seen a Halloween movie, basically it gets really crazy after the first one. Like in the second one, it's established that Michael and Laurie Strode are related, and that's why he was hunting her. And then like it gets into like weird, like mystical voodoo stuff later on in the series. So for this one, they just basically decided that they were going to erase all the continuity after the first movie. So this is basically just a sequel to the original Halloween. And so it's just 40 years later. Basically, Michael Myers tried to kill Laurie Strode. She gets away. He gets shot, arrested, and he's been in a mental health facility since then. And of course, he breaks out and goes hunting again. And the difference is that Laurie Strode, played by, wow, why did I just blank on her name? That's ridiculous.
Amy?
Jamie Lee Curtis. Thank you. Jesus.
Brain fart.
She's basically been traumatized by this event her entire life. She spent the last 40 years waiting for Michael Myers to escape. It's wrecked her relationships with her daughter. She's apparently been divorced twice, and this daughter was not conceived by someone, not one of these two men. And so her relationship with her daughter and her granddaughter are like completely severed because this whole thing has taken over her life. And so, like the last thing I talked about, this is a story about trauma and about how trauma rules your entire life. And I think, like, I've always been a big fan of the Halloween movies, and I think this is a movie that is both true to the original movie while still doing new and interesting things with it. And I really, really, really liked it. And I saw it at Fantastic Fest. I talked about it a little bit on that podcast, but I wanted to bring it back again because I like it so much. And I was hoping at least one of you guys had seen it. And Sesh, you didn't let me down.
No, but I saw the half in the bag.
So then you basically seen it.
I basically seen it, and I got to see Macaulay Culkin in the Half in the Bag episode. So that was also
It's so random.
that also compelled me to want to see this movie. So
I mean,
So Sesh, what did you think of this movie?
Okay, so I'm not a huge fan of slashers. So I like Halloween, and the series, it goes off on its tangent. But yeah, the first one's solid. Like I can see how, like, yeah, this became a thing. I get it. Heck yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like slashers are just like I don't care. Like I don't usually find them very scary. I didn't find this one very scary. Like it had like some moments like, yeah, that'd be scary, but it's in this, so it's so different than reality anyways. But I thought it was really well done. It definitely absolutely felt like it was in the spirit of the first one. We had actually, because I saw it with a married couple friend of mine, and one of them, like the husband, he hadn't seen the Rob Zombie remake. So to prep for this one, right before that, we actually saw the Rob Zombie remake, which is fine too in its own ways.
Yeah, I don't like it as much.
Yeah, like I don't like it as much either. And then I didn't like it as much as this one either. This one, I had a lot of fun with it. Like it does a lot. Like where every character is coming from, and there's a good handful of characters, which is something that you don't really see in slashers. Like you usually just get the cliche, just a teenager group, and that's it. Like I love that there's like multiple generations in this. I love that. I mean, I'm gonna say it just because so many horror movies actually do this, and sometimes it's a little off because sometimes guys don't know how to write for women, but like they were all really well written. Like they were very, very realistic. They were so grounded. They were all very different. They were all coming from different places. They all had their own voice. They all had their own perspectives. It all made sense. And it was just fun. Like, it was just like that kind of like, I mean, I don't want to say too fun of a slasher because they do get silly when they start having too much fun. But this one had like just some great hell yeah parts. And I'm sure you noticed there is a shot they repeated from the original. Like I was, there was at least one shot. It's been a little while since I've seen the original, but like I was so excited for that because that's my favorite shot of the original. It was so great, like the spin on everything that they did was really fantastic.
Yeah, it's a movie. I think like it was. You can tell it was written to be like a good time film, you know, like it's scary, it's funny, there are some like fist pumping moments. It's just a movie that like wants you to sit down and have a really good time with it and enjoy being scared, but enjoy laughing, enjoy getting to cheer on badass Jamie Lee Curtis, who is amazing.
Yeah,
so she's amazing in this movie.
I love her.
Yeah. And Judy Greer got like a good moment in this movie too, which poor Judy Greer like is always kind of I love her so much, and she's always kind of like in the background or like the supporting character person. So I love that this movie gave her like an awesome moment.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was really fantastic with all that. And one of the biggest things with horror movies that I think is so important and then just completely dictates, like, it doesn't even matter what the story is if you have stupid characters in a horror movie, your whole movie's stupid. And this didn't have that. Like this, and especially for slashers. Oh, good God. For slashers especially. Like, this didn't have stupid characters. Like, nobody really, really did anything dumb except maybe, like, one person. But they just totally just didn't get it. Like, it's less than being stupid. It's just like they don't understand the situation, which is different than like they know what's going on and they just do something stupid, which is usually just how writers work with bad movies. Like, oh, I just need them to go here. It doesn't matter if it doesn't make sense. I just want that to happen because I have to die this way. But this one didn't have that really. Like, there's no like frustrating moments. There's none of that really.
Yeah. I'm okay with stupid characters in horror movies as long as their stupidity is punished.
That's okay for me when it's like a horror comedy. Like that makes it solid. Yeah. If it's trying to be serious, I just can't when they're stupid. Not at all.
I mean, the original Halloween has the world's first stupid slasher moment.
Yeah.
when Laurie stabs Michael and then drops the knife and runs away.
Yep. That's why I love Zombieland. Forever and ever. You got to double tap.
That's another good horror movie.
It is a good movie.
Yeah.
I was actually, there's been a podcast going on all month called Halloween Unmasked by The Ringer. And it was like an 8-episode series. I think it just finished today, where they were exploring Halloween, you know, from beginning to end. And one of the things that they said about that was the moment when Laurie like drops the knife immediately after stabbing Michael. It was written and supposed to be like she looks and sees that the knife is covered in blood and she kind of drops it in disgust. But because the choreographer or the cinematographer and John Carpenter were so obsessed with like making the lighting as dim as possible, like you just couldn't see the blood on the knife because it was so darkly lit. So that was just kind of lost. So I think Jamie Lee Curtis gets tired of people saying, "Why'd you drop the knife?" And she goes, "'Cause it was gross."
Oh, that's great. I didn't know about that.
Yeah.
I love those little film tidbits because a movie like that put him on the map, basically.
Right. Well, that movie was made for like $30,000.
Yeah, like I knew, like, you know, like they broomed up all the fake leaves that they used to make it look like fall so that they could reuse them. Like it wasn't.
They had like 2 bags.
They had 2 bags and they needed to reuse the fall leaves. Like it was a micro budget. Like that's why I want to know what William Shatner thought about this because everyone, you know, that looks into the fun facts of this movie at all know it's a William Shatner Halloween mask that was painted.
Apparently he didn't know until like 10 years ago, which is just like the classic William Shatner
That's
thing.
so
like,
great.
He's just so oblivious and just didn't know.
I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
It makes you chuckle every once in a while when you look at it. Like it's not so much that it's constantly a distraction, but when you notice. It'll get you to chuckle here and there.
Yeah. All right, so that is Halloween 2018. If you haven't seen that movie, go see it. It's pretty good. If you like slashers, it's good. If you don't like slashers, it's probably not gonna like this movie.
It's fine. I'm not super into them, but it's fine.
All right, guys. Well, we've gone around the table twice.
The fire.
We've talked about some spooky things. Sorry, damn it. The fire. The spooky fire twice. We've talked about some spooky things and also Michael's choices. I think we're ready to wrap this one up.
I think so. Sounds good.
This was fun. We should do this every year.
Yes, let's.
Yeah.
Like for real this time, because we did it the first time.
Let's wrap it up and put it under the tree
Ugh,
for the next holiday season.
I'm so angry. I'm so mad at
Good.
you.
It almost works.
It works perfect.
Partial credit.
Thank you.
Michael, thanks for coming to talk about your spooky things.
You're welcome.
And Sesh, thanks for coming back. Do you want to plug your stuff? You're somewhere special right now.
Oh,
right?
that's right. I think I forgot to say this.
Yeah.
God, guess where I'm podcasting from today?
Where?
Daly City.
Oh.
I have a city? Nobody told me
Yes,
this.
there is a city in Northern California, the Bay Area. Daly City. That's where I'm podcasting right now.
How do they spell it? This is really important.
It's your last name. It is. There is no I.
Oh.
Yep.
Whew. Okay, good.
Yep.
Good.
Yep.
Yes.
It's your city. So
There's no I in Daily.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Exactly. So I'm here actually for TwitchCon. So
Cool.
That's
Yeah.
exciting.
It's super fun. This is my third TwitchCon. It's one of my favorite cons that I've been to. I travel somewhat occasionally for conventions and tournaments and stuff like this. Nerd fests, as I call them.
Yeah.
I do streaming.
Yeah, so this is actually this is good because I've always wondered like what happens at those because like for like video game conventions I know like there's probably a lot of video games and stuff. Like what happens at like there's because there's podcast cons that we get like invited to every once in a while and I'm like what
happens at those?
I don't know. So what happens at TwitchCon?
So for TwitchCon, like I've been a little baby streamer myself for a while. Plug it. It is twitch.tv/reviewsesh for now. And they're really great because they do stuff for all ranges of people for Twitch. And so that is stuff for viewers. Like they have meet and greets with some of the big streamers. They do panels on just FYIs, like behind the scenes stuff for your streamers. They do panels on resources if you're starting out streaming, resources if you're actually a very experienced streamer and like do it for a living. Like there was a one last year I went to, there was a panel on like how to do your taxes as a streamer, like what the income is considered and like stuff like that too. And they have tons and tons of companies that show up and they all have booths and different things and different resources that'll help you because there's a lot of different assets and like technology and apps and programs and physical equipment that you need to go into this. And there's a lot of competition out there for these companies and there's a lot of different things that each of them bring for different streamers. So there's tons of resources here. There's tons of that. There's tons of meet and greets and parties and seeing a bunch of people that you might not normally get to see during the year. Yeah, it's great. It's a huge networking event too. So it's just anything from being a viewer and going there to go meet your people and see what new fun things there are happening on Twitch and in the streaming world. And then like being a professional streamer, even just a little baby streamer like me, where there's tons of great resources and great ways to promote yourself and learn and network too. So it's a whole bunch of fun. It's a big 3-day event. They do it up and down the coast of California and they switch the location every year. Last year was Long Beach, year before that was San Diego. And I think they just rotate every year like that. And again, it's one of the best cons I've been to. Their goodie bags are great.
Cool.
Yeah,
that's very helpful. I think I get it now.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. That's awesome. I that's not what I would have guessed.
Yeah. So would you say it's mostly streamers then? Like it's more of a networking?
Well, yeah, this is
and
specifically Twitch. So Twitch, the company, the streaming platform of Twitch, head to head against like YouTube, basically. They put it up. It says all them, their baby. They do everything. There's a lot of entertainment here too. On Saturday, I have no idea what it's about yet. I didn't even read the description. I just put it in my calendar because Kevin Smith is doing a panel.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so I don't even know what that's going to be about. I know a lot of people have gotten into streaming and it's become more and more mainstream. So there's a lot more eyes on it. There's a lot more like Kevin Smiths and like other people coming to it. There's a lot of stuff. Esports, lives on this too, because all the viewers, they stream it that way. Everything live. So it's not just down to like streamers like me, who's just, I'm going to be, futzing around with a video game. It's not just streamers who do Twitch in particular, like it's huge with the categories. There's body painting. They came up with a new category now. They call it just chatting. So it's, not the IRL category anymore. It's literally just you sitting down and you talking with your chat and just, you don't have to be doing anything. Like they have some fantastic categories, and it opens doors, and it kind of gives everyone like a nice little place to fit themselves in for what they feel like doing that night.
Do you think there's a market for math streaming?
I bet.
I've been considering starting one of those.
I'll sub, Michael.
I'll sub.
I would too.
Yep. Sub if you want me to solve some eigenvalue problems for you.
I was going to ask, is this a stream where like you're teaching some math, or are people just like over your shoulder watching you?
It's just like recreational math,
You're probably joking, but like weirder things are actual streams. So
yes. That's very true.
All right. Yeah. Well, let's start.
All right.
You know what? I'll pitch it to Twitch and I'll give you credit.
All right.
All right, Sesh, you have fun down there or up there. I don't know, relative to where I am.
Yeah, to the left of us.
Yeah, over there.
Yeah.
To the left.
Enjoy Kevin Smith, the only famous person that's ever yelled at me on the internet. Kevin Smith.
Wait, what did he say to you on the internet?
I was like chatting with a friend on Twitter, just like through tweets about how bad one of his movies was, and I guess he searches his name because he's had some not nice things to say about us.
Yeah, he shouldn't do that.
Yeah, he definitely shouldn't do that.
Which of his excellent films were you criticizing?
I'm afraid, we've talked about it already, so he's probably gonna.
I'm gonna fight you on it a little bit. I'm not like the biggest fan, but I like him. I like his movies. They are enjoyable to me.
Seems like a nice guy.
I think that Yoga Hoosers was the worst movie I've ever seen.
Holy crap. I had so much fun with that. I saw that the same day I saw Jacob's Ladder. And it was so silly and so dumb. And they obviously, as a filmmaker, they obviously had so much fun. And there's so many callbacks. And I'm loving the casting he's pulling together. I love that Justin Long's and everything. And it's really stupid and really pointless and really fun.
See, I liked Tusk. I did not hate Tusk. I thought Tusk was ridiculous like that. But Yoga Hosers, I just wanted to die. I watched this movie and it's like, you wrote a movie so you could put your daughter in it. And that's fine, but it's bad.
You know what? When I'm a filmmaker that has the money to make whatever the hell I want, and I got kids, like, you want to be in a movie? All right, fine. I'm bringing all my buddies along. I'm going to have your mom be in the movie, and it's going to be a really awkward scene. It's going to be funny, and I don't care. I'm laughing.
The Godfather 3 was all right.
And I think on that note, that's all we had for you guys this week. If you have any opinions on any of the movies we talked about or anything else, feel free to reach out to us via email at doofmedia@gmail.com or on Twitter @doofmedia.
Yeah, and if you're not already subscribed to this podcast, we encourage you to do so and ensure you never miss an episode. You can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, Google Play, and pretty much anywhere else podcasts can be found.
And you can find all of our shows over at doofmedia.com. If you like what we do here and want to support us, consider becoming a patron of Doof Media. You can find us at patreon.com/doofmedia and pledge $1 a month or whatever else you can afford. There's a whole bunch of patron-only content over there and more coming every day. So help us out if you are so inclined.
Yeah. Also, please consider rating and reviewing us on Apple Podcasts. Every review helps us to get more exposure and introduces new people to the content that we make here.
All right, Michael, Sesh, thanks again for coming and hanging out with us and talking about spooky things.
Hey, thanks for the invite.
Yes, invite me back.
We will, and we'll see everyone next week. Kevin Smith, so spooky.
My name is Doof, and you'll do what I say. My name is Doof, and you'll do what I say.